What's up, my lovelies, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm setting up some spreads in my reading journal for the first quarter of 2026. The first book that I tried to read in 2026 in January was A Game of Thrones. I DNF'd it. I think this is the first book that I have DNF'd in the journal. And there are a plethora of reasons that are not concise enough to fit the short clip that this entry got. I don't like A Game of Thrones. I really wanted to because the world is so nice. The world is so well put together, but the people are disastrous and like gross. So I just couldn't. It truly just like I tried to force myself to finish the chapter and I just couldn't because I just felt so uncomfortable reading it. And the show is no better. I think we all know the show is absolutely no better. The one time I was in the room for people watching an episode, there was also a child in the room, and I and the friend at the time spent the entirety of the episode occupying the child so they wouldn't see what was on the television. Mind you, the child just could not have been there. That's a whole other story. But the fact that we had to spend so much time distracting a child is a lot more than I think it should. I couldn't tell you what was up. I really couldn't. Like I said, I DNF'd Game of Thrones, so it doesn't get a rating from me, but it would get 0 stars. Next is Summerland by Michael Claren something. His last name starts with a C. And this is a book that I've had on my shelf, I think, since I was in primary school. And I did read it then, I'm pretty sure, but I don't remember anything about it. So picking it up again was great. I really enjoyed it, even though this is a sports book technically, but it's like the story is told with the help of the sport, if that makes sense. But the story is more about folklore and how, well, this is how I interpreted it. The story is more about folklore and how it has more of an impact on the real world, quote quote, than most people think. And there is a reason for everything, I think, is basically sort of the message. I don't know if it is a message or not, but they use baseball to explain that. I don't understand baseball. I don't understand a lot of sports that aren't just like hit this into this, you get a point, rinse, repeat. But Summerland is, oh god, it's set in like, I think 1940s, maybe. I could be incredibly wrong, but it's following a young boy whose name I've completely forgotten. Oh, jeez Louise, that's bad. It is following a young boy who plays on his local baseball team, little league team, but he isn't all that great at it. But it's mainly because of the position that he plays. And he gets recruited by what is called a Febraury, which to me is like the equivalent of a brownie, that kind of folklore, but not necessarily like make things to keep like whatever, their whole thing. He's more of like, I think they call him shadow tales. So like they travel between the other world and the real world through the world tree, where they get that opportunity where two branches rub together and create like basically like a gate, essentially like a door. So whatever can come from the real world to their side, vice versa, like how doors work. And I think the whole premise is to stop the world from ending, as it does, as plots like that do. They have children fix that problem for some reason, probably because children are at that point in life innocent. They're more willing to believe a lot of things than adults are, because adults are now relying on years of experience, years of trial and tribulation, years of knowing what's right, what's wrong, what's real, what's not. And children are just drowning in imagination all the time. So it's up to quite literally two children and a bunch of other folklore characters. What is his name? Ethan. Ethan is his name. Ethan is the name of the main boy, and his friend Jennifer T. You have to say Jennifer T. You can't just call her Jennifer. You can't call her Jenny. You have to call her Jennifer T. She is like the best friend that we all deserve and need, because she was like, absolutely not. You're not gonna do this by yourself. What the hell do you mean? You best believe I'm coming with you. I have to keep you alive because you're an idiot. And Jennifer T and Ethan essentially join forces with, I think, however many people you need on a baseball team. I say baseball team. It's like on the field at once, and I think it's 7 or 8. It could be 6. Who knows? I don't. And they basically fight against the guy who's trying to end the world, who's a liar and a crook and a sneak. And he's basically taking credit for things that he didn't do because he tricked the people who actually did it into giving him the thing. Or like something like that. That could be incredibly wrong as well. Whoops. And it's actually a really good read. If you understand baseball, I think it would be an even better read. But for somebody who doesn't understand baseball, the way that they explained it actually does kind of help me get into it a little bit more. Sure, there are times where it's just a bunch of statistics and just a bunch of lingo and all of that. But it still was a really good read because I love the camaraderie of a team. I love the teamwork aspect. I love that Jennifer is just like, she's adamant that Ethan shouldn't be doing this alone. That he needs somebody his age who's going through something quite similar to be able for him to come to and be understood and heard. And I really liked that. I really loved their friendship, and it all works out in the end, I think, quite abruptly. I truly can't remember. It's been a month since I've read this book, and I truly cannot remember what's going on. But I do remember it ending in a positive note, like the good side wins, quote, good side wins. Summerland's got 4 stars on my scale. It got a 56 out of 70, which rounds to an even 8. And yeah, it was a great read. I would 110% recommend this. It is a bit, I think, time accurate, iffy, because there's talk of like Native Americans and all of that stuff in there as well. Like Jennifer T is a part of a Native American tribe, sort of, because it's now modern day. Tribes aren't really a thing anymore, unfortunately. I say modern day. It's closer to now than it was then, if that makes sense. But it's a really good read. I would recommend it. Just a quick input before we get into the next book. I am trying my best in the voiceovers to not give spoilers. However, if you have the eyeballs of a hawk, of an eagle, of a predator bird of any kind, you might be able to read what I am writing in the actual journal entry. So if you read that, you will be getting spoilers, but I will try my best to not verbally give spoilers to the best of my ability, because sometimes you just need context to understand what the heck I'm talking about. Now, after setting up my February pages, the next book and the most recent book, as of current time recording this voiceover, is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, the first book in the Infernal Devices series. There is a way to read all of the Mortal Instruments books in, like, you can read them in chronological order, I think, or you can read them in, I think, some other order. I can't remember what the other order is. but I don't have all of them read in that order, as you can probably tell from what I do have in my journal. I've had Clockwork Angel for a hot minute. I really have, and I only just finished it. I love how far back this goes. I love how far back the universe goes. Like, this is 1878. 1878 is, like, for at least from what I understand, the earliest that I have. So this goes back to like the early, I say early, it's like the roughly established, they're just plateauing existence of the shadow hunters and the clave, I think it is, or is it enclave? I think it's just clave. I can never understand. But I really like this one because it does give a lot of perspective on a lot of things in the future books. Like if you read, like in my case, I read the first Mortal Instruments book before I read this one, and at least I think it's the first one. Did I read the first two? I think I read the first. You know what? Let me continue this. But Clockwork Angel, at least for me, answers a lot of questions, but also it's like I want to ask them a lot of questions, because a part of it is, and this book, the main character, Tessa, she's got a good head on her shoulders, but she doesn't have like the confidence to actually go through with it. But I think that's also like a part of the time, because it's 1878, women barely have rights as it is then. And so there's a lot of like time accurate misogyny of like, women can't do this, women can't do that, women shouldn't be doing this, women shouldn't be doing that, leave that to the men, blah blah blah. Shadow hunters are just like, if she wants to fight, she can freaking fight, like let her fight. I don't know what more you want from me. But real quick, let me see if I can do this. Tessa is the main female protagonist. She is an American girl whose brother has been hired by some dude in London. He has sent her a ticket to come to London to live with her after their aunt dies. But their aunt had been raising them since their parents died. And that one moment is the first domino in the domino train of domino trains. Because not only does Tessa find out more about herself, she finds out a lot more about her brother than she wanted to, and he turns out to be in my words, he's a dickhead. But like, he's not even like a good dickhead. He's just an idiot dickhead, you know? And so a lot of stuff happens. The shadow hunters are, I guess you could equate to racist or like speciesist, because shadow hunters are Nephilim, meaning they are born of angels. And then there's the mundanes. Shadow hunters are arrogant people, really, who think they're better than mundanes because they're born of angels. But they just got played by a mundane. Shocker. They get played by mundanes all the freaking time because they're so arrogant. They don't think of anything else being possible, really and truly. And it's honestly, I really liked this one, mainly because of the characters. There are some characters that I don't like. Jessamine is one of them. Jessamine is the other female shadow hunter, but she doesn't want to be a shadow hunter, and she's using that as cement to just be inactive, if that makes any sense. There is a point in the book, I should say, there's a point in the book for Jessamine that truly solidifies her as like my least liked character, because she had the power to do something, and instead of staying and doing that thing, she ran, and because of that, major consequences happened. Like, as in, like, she has the training to do something that's the person who she left behind does not have the training to do, and the consequence lead to a big thing happening. There is a little bit of spice, like it's half a pepper because it's a kiss, and that's all it is. But then it's with Will Herondale, who is the male protagonist, quote unquote. He's the shadow hunter that rescues Tessa at some point. But I don't really like him all that much. But that's mostly because he sucks at communicating, and he'd rather lie than just say a soft version of what he wants to say. And he'd rather go for your throat to get you away from him than just explain what the situation is making him feel. But then again, it's 1878, and men just don't have the ability, they're not given the space to be human, even more so then than it is now, and that's unfair to them. So I can't really hold it against him, his reaction to Tessa. I really can't, but he gets on my nerves sometimes. Jem is a sweetheart. We love Jem in this household. Thomas, Sophia, Agatha, Charlotte, and Henry, we love them in this household. Henry is like a himbo, but a himbo with a doctorate. I love Henry. He gets a lot of shit from other people, and it's unfair because it's like, I want to see you do what he's doing. Oh, that's right, you can't. Got it. So why are you running your mouth again? Heard. I gave Clockwork Angels 4 stars with an 8.6 from my cop-out scale. Next up on the roster is Red Queen, my final book for the quarter, and I am testing out a combo in the back because I had just done my April plan with me in my bullet journal, which you would have seen before this video goes out because I completely forgot I had this video going in the background. I'm testing it to make sure that it doesn't bleed or ghost like it did in my bullet journal. I believe this paper is like 60 GSM thicker than a bullet journal paper, between 30 and 60, so I don't have any issues with that. But also that pen is dying like most of my tombos are dying because I've had them for years, so I think it's time for a new set. Hopefully in the future. It's on the list. But Red Queen is by Victoria Aveyard. This is a new series that I picked up because the bookstore still doesn't have the 3rd book of Crescent City in paperback, and yes, I am anal about that. I have the first 2 in paperback. The last one needs to be in paperback for it to be a complete set, or it's just gonna look weird. Anyways, Red Queen is a book that I believe I looked at the cover, and it's next to the rest of the books in the series on the shelf, which thankfully I should hopefully be able to go back and get the others. But I believe it's a quartet. It's like stunning, the series, visually. I read the blurb on the back and I was like, ooh, okay. So my first opinion of this book was there is royalty involved, and she's the main character. Mare is like secret royalty, or like from a long lost lineage of royalty, and it's discovered somehow, and everything flips on its head for her because she's not used to being a royal. She's used to being a quote-unquote commoner. That is not the case in the slightest. Or actually, technically, it kind of is the case. That's not the main gist of it all. This is a story that is ripe with world building. I think it touches a couple of tropes, but like whenever I read tropes, I don't notice that they're tropes until somebody else points them out because they're my bread and butter. I think there's a couple of tropes in there. Enemies to lovers sort of situation, I believe, can count as a trope, I think. I'm not 100% sure what qualifies as enemies to lovers. There's your classic fantasy segregation. It seems to be the go-to for fantasy. Some form of segregation, like one side is better than the other because they have this, or the other side is this because they don't have this, and blah 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 blah. There's powers involved, which I really like in fantasy. I love when fantasy has really well thought out magic systems. Oh, I'm trying to not spoil. Imagine the plot or the story of this book is a coin. And when it's just getting good, that coin flips. And then it gets better. And then the coin flips again. And it gets better. And the coin flips again. And you're like, how many sides are there to this coin? Because this book, when I tell you, I'm so glad I picked this book up instead of like walking out empty-handed, because I wanted to complete a series instead of picking up a new one. When I tell you I'm so glad I picked up this book, I think I say this all the time, but I feel like I just have a vibe check for books, apparently, that I know I'm gonna like for some reason. And it's just, I need the rest of these books. because I need to know what happens to Mare. I need to know what happens to Cal. I need to know what happens in the kingdom. I need to know. Anyways, in this last clip, I'm going to be doing my quarterly review, and the time of recording this, the actual clip, I was struggling with math. I was struggling with the numbers for some reason. Like, I'm good at math. I just don't like doing it. But numbers are my forte. Like, I'm much better at remembering numbers than I am like names, history. Like, I'm sure I'd be good at history if I cared. But that sounds bad, but like still. I'm sure I'd be good at history because of dates and stuff. I wouldn't be good at names, but I'd be good at remembering when events happened, maybe. But I was just so bad with numbers in this one, because I DNF'd Game of Thrones. If I hadn't DNF'd Game of Thrones, I probably would have been fine. But because I DNF'd Game of Thrones, it threw off my personal count of how many books I actually did read this quarter, which was 4. If I did finish Game of Thrones, it would have been 5. I thought I only read 3 books, and I DNF'd Game of Thrones as the 4th one. Incorrect. Anyways, filling in my stats at the front, I'm also going to be filling in the reading goals situation, and then my on the list page, as well as my book tracker. And then I realized I need to put in the actual series tracker for Red Queen. That's the name of the series. So yeah, that's what I have to do in between. But until the next one, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye 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 bye. Boom.